guys! Today we'll be recapping a story called Born as the Daughter of the Wicked Woman. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot. Enjoy! After a year following the cute purple-haired baby's birth, she suddenly recalls her previous life and discovers she is now living in the novel her friend once recommended to her. The novel has a nice ending, as you would expect. The female lead defeats the villainess dies, and the main characters have children and live happily ever after, blah blah blah. However, our girl ends up being reborn as the villainess's daughter. They say the novel had a happy ending, but the truth is that the villainess was the male lead's wife, and they had been happily married for 3 years until the female lead entered the story as a servant and had an affair with him. A homewrecker and a cheating bastard. The wife did her best to protect her position as both wife and duchess, but it only made her a villainess. What can we expect from a novel that favors the female lead? The Duke locked his own wife in a tower, but she was not alone. She was carrying their child in her womb. Except, while she's breastfeeding our unnamed baby here, the Duchess is constantly in a daze, sobbing and grieving her ex-husband. When she was old enough to walk, they separated our girl from her mother, who wept no tears for her, and she entered an orphanage operated by the Empire. But the hardship was so severe that she wished to return to the tower instead. She is now 6 years old, but the workers in the orphanage continue to mistreat her simply because she's the villainess's daughter, and even the director appears unconcerned, until a new worker, Yulene, enters the orphanage and is so friendly to her that she treats her like her own child. Then one day, our girl is led back to the tower to say goodbye to her mother, but she doesn't expect to see her so frail and ill. Yet her mother's entire being is still searching for the Duke. She survived cruelty in the orphanage, but she can't help but feel even more regret now that her own mother is still not looking at her. However, because these are her final moments with her, she speaks out and informs her own mother that she has named herself Daphne, and that she understands her longing to be the Duke's wife rather than be her mother. That's so sad. No one even gave her a name. She then reassures her mother that she will never forget her and hopes that she finds relief from her pain as she holds her hand. At long last, her mother sees her and is ready to call her name, but she is unable to do so and dies with tears in her eyes. Daphne wails by her side, but this awful guard does not want to give her time to mourn, dragging her away and even smiling as he informs her that her mother would now be punished in hell. While she is being pulled, she notices the guards' and servants' expressions, and none of them show any remorse for a child who has just lost her mother. In the novel, they not only tell the villainess's death, but also her daughter's death, and she is destined to be beaten to death tomorrow. As soon as they exit the tower, the guard shoves her to the ground, and everyone stares at her negatively until Yulene rushes over to help. Upon noticing her injured knee, Yulene initially intends to return Daphne to the orphanage, but before that, she smiles as she informs her that she will first meet with someone. Daphne has no idea who this person is until she sees a man in front of her with navy blue hair and gold eyes like her, and she realizes he is her father. Daphne begins to tremble, convinced that her father despises her and is terrified to look into his eyes. So Yulene introduces her to the Duke while a guard informs him that she is Freyr's daughter. This scumbag doesn't even realize this is his own daughter! Wow! The Duke simply scoffs, but Daphne wants to use this chance to get close to him to avoid dying tomorrow. So she extends her hand and smiles as she calls him father. But the Duke just turns his back and denies her. She tried to pull that cute daughter act, but it didn't work. The fact that poor Freyr was able to pay people to assassinate his so-called wife Eunice leads him to believe that Freyr must have sold her own body and had a kid. After that, he examines Freyr's corpse and tells the guard to dispose of her as if he had never loved her. Daphne is enraged, since that is how the story of the villainess ends. Be the next villainess and make this cheating, irresponsible Duke pay! Returning to the orphanage, Daphne is taken aback by the abrupt transformation of Yulene's lovely and gentle personality into a vicious one. What the? Not a single person is on her side? She is only playing kind to Daphne because she hopes to become a nanny for the Duke's household. The only person who has been kind to her is acting strangely, which confuses Daphne. Not only that, but the other orphans start mocking her because her villainous mother has recently died. In the face of the children's persistent bullying, Daphne chooses to leave them be and retreat to her room, despite her anger. The audacity! Hello, you're orphans as well! She feels helpless hearing those baseless accusations, but then realizes she doesn't have to put up with all the bullies. So she laughs evilly and traumatizes the kids as she explains that she simply became an orphan after her mother died. But that isn't the case for them. In short, they are abandoned. Savage! However, Yulene grabs Daphne's hand and scolds her for being so cruel to the other kids when she just watched them bullying her earlier. Daphne enters her room crying herself out because she doesn't want to be killed tomorrow. She is so down that she doesn't notice that it's nearly dusk until Yulene walks in and tells her that she'll be punished for being rude earlier. This girl comes closer to Daphne, telling her that she'll be going somewhere tomorrow so she can reflect on her actions, and then locks her in her room. My blood is boiling over this girl. Daphne couldn't say anything, but one thing is certain. That place will be where she gets battered to death. She is so terrified by the realization that she is determined to get away today. She has had enough of feeling sorry for herself, and she can't believe she just accepted her fate. However, she does find a silver lining. She would have missed witnessing her mother's dying moments if she had fled sooner. Now that she is thinking clearly, she recalls that a second part of the story will begin after her death, in which the Duke's daughter will embark on an adventure to a neighboring empire, making a friend and marry happily. The family that has abandoned her and her mother is fated to have a happy ending even though they are the wicked ones. So Daphne smiles as she vows not to let this second part of the story develop. Ooh, I am loving this new side of her. She intends to change the plot, and if it still results in the main character's happy ending, so be it. If not, she wins. That's right, ruin the story. Daphne then adjusts her bed because her room has a hidden door connecting to the storage. The adults forced her to stay in a closet-like room alone to separate her from the other children, but it now comes in handy. Before she leaves, she needs some sort of plan, so she begins absorbing how the second section goes. Following the deaths of her and her mother, the new male lead attempts to assassinate a high-ranking lady but fails. However, due to his ambition, the lady adopts him and names him her successor. In the end, he will meet and marry the Duke's daughter, which Daphne intends to prevent. To do so, she needs a place to hide, and her only option is Chloe Benedetto, the person who would adopt the male protagonist. Chloe chose the male lead for a reason. She intends to use him for revenge. She was also from the orphanage where Daphne is now staying, but was sold to a black market by her friend, who is now the orphanage's director. Chloe went through a lot before rising to the top because she truly wanted her vengeance. In the story, the orphanage director is not particularly thorough and just hides the black market-related documents in the drawer. So Daphne plans to steal them and use them to make a deal with Chloe. While everyone is still asleep, Daphne sneaks off to the director's office to scan the drawer, but there's a problem. It requires a key. Please, don't get caught! Even though Daphne starts to freak out, she soon recovers because she knows the director is sloppy, so she assumes he stashed it away somewhere near his desk. After that, she checks the planter next to the desk, and lo and behold, there it is, the key. She seizes the document, despite her complete lack of literacy in the novel's alphabet, and tucks a special stamp, reasoning that it must be important given that it is hidden. In a last-ditch effort to hide from the director and Yulene, she dives beneath the couch as soon as she hears footsteps coming toward the office. Their conversation turns to her and Yulene's plans to take her somewhere. But what shocks Daphne the most is that she overhears them being overly affectionate. Okay, so these two are secretly dating. Following their departure, Daphne too resolves to get away in a hurry before seeing a lamp that gives her a brilliant idea. Much to her delight, she recalls that the orphanage keeps the lamps in the storage room filled with oil. Daphne returns to her room, places a piece of her clothing on the bed, and leaves her shoe in front of the door to make it appear as if she's in the room before setting fire to it. This is how she starts over, stays alive, and ruins the plot. She proceeds to shatter the lamp and throw the match she had lit, setting off a massive blaze that makes her death in her room all the more plausible. Daphne looks over one last time, knowing that the director and the children will both be devastated by the fire damage. Then, completely guilt-free, she walks away like a boss. I'm really watching her like a proud mom. Now, on to the next revenge. Soon after, Daphne finds the hidden door that leads to the Benedetto estate. Confident that this will be her key to a fresh start, she tries to recall the right passcode, and presto, the door unlocks. She enters and finds that no one is there, but she knows she is where she is supposed to be, so she continues inside, grinning because she feels like her plans are finally coming together. Then, out of nowhere, a blinding light illuminates her surroundings. Much to her surprise, she spots a young man with green hair who is just as taken aback by her arrival, and he asks how she got there. Daphne bravely explains that she is actually there to meet the head of the merchant company, but he promptly tells her that she isn't someone she can easily meet and warns her to leave. Daphne is determined not to give up now that she has reached this point and has chosen to live and alter the story. With that in mind, she takes a deep breath and screams that she wants to negotiate a deal with the company's head. As a result, the company head approaches them, clearly agitated, and inquires as to who is causing the disturbance at this late hour. When Daphne first sees her, she instantly expresses her desire to work with her and join her company in exchange for what she needs. Daphne then hands over all the documents from her bag, and as the woman looks through them, she sighs and says that any child living on the streets could get them. The woman's evident dissatisfaction has Daphne in a state of panic as she frets what to do. Oh. Chloe stares at her, noting her distinct hair color and the fact that anyone can tell from a glance that she is the wicked woman's daughter. So making a deal with Daphne will be a loss for her, and she hands the documents to the green-haired man, explaining that she does not want to deal with the consequences of taking her in and instructing her to leave. Then, all of a sudden, they find out that the orphanage is on fire, and Chloe is terrified for the children's safety. Daphne, though, assures them that they need not be afraid. She herself started the fire in the closet that had been her room, and she had to fake her death, so she locked the doors. Knowing full well that she would be beaten to death if she returned, Daphne turns around, determined to find another way to survive. Just then, Chloe changes her mind and introduces herself, prompting Daphne to smile and share her own name. Chloe then asks what she wants, and with a serious expression, she tells her she wants to live. Out of nowhere, Chloe then says she would like a flower as a greeting, but Daphne doesn't understand why she should bring one in this cold weather. The woman reassures her that she won't ask if it's easy and goes on to explain that there are flowers outside the castle gates, even in this weather, but that it's dangerous to go out there at night because there are monsters and wild animals, and Daphne could die trying to find them. After all the explanations, the woman asks if Daphne will still bring the red flower before dawn. Daphne, however, believes the woman is merely trying to gauge her determination, so she agrees to get it before daybreak. Lennox Benedetto introduces himself to Daphne as he hands her a pair of shoes, and as she expresses her gratitude, he puts a robe around her to prevent her from catching a cold, and he holds her tiny hand while they walk away to the castle gates. He seems nice. Walking hand in hand, they venture into the dark woodland. Lennox, unable to offer assistance, can only offer a warning and urge Daphne to simply withdraw. However, our girl must pass this test if she is to survive, so she sets out as soon as Lennox tells her she must walk straight. Even though she knew it would be tough, the pitch darkness and the silence are sending shivers down her spine. Then she hears the howl of a wolf, and she knows she would die in its jaws, so she dashes away as quickly as she can, tripping over her own feet. She is relieved that the wolf does not follow her, so she makes an effort to get up, but the pain in her feet is so severe that it becomes difficult for her to move. Poor Daphne couldn't help but feel helpless again, as if she had reached her limit. But just as she's about to give up, a purple butterfly appears. Daphne finds it peculiar that a butterfly is circling her in the cold, but she interprets it as a sign that it wants her to follow. As she shakily stands up to chase after the butterfly, she notices that its color matches her mother's hair. No, I really want to believe that is her mom helping her. After all her trouble, Daphne still manages to crack a smile when she spots the moonlight and the flower she's been searching for perched on a cliff. Although it is somewhat steep, she is now refueled and prepared to climb. She climbs carefully and calmly, with the butterfly keeping a close eye on her every move, until she reaches the peak where she may pluck the exact flower she needs. Daphne is overjoyed that her initial mental reaction is to inform her mother of her success. On top of that, she thanks the butterfly, who looked just like her mom before her injured leg gave up and she fell. At the same time, Lennox regretted leaving Daphne alone, and he is now searching for her when he sees her fall from a distance. He better do something! Daphne's leg hurts, her vision is fuzzy, and all she can think about is keeping the flower secure in her hands. She then awakens in such pain that even breathing is difficult, but she decides to sit up and notices a smiling man with pink hair and glasses handing her water. Also, did Daphne's hair color shift to a very pale purple? The guy explains that she fell, and Lennox was the one who brought her home. I was hoping Lennox would catch her, though. He goes on to say that the flower she plucked has already been sent to his mother, Chloe, which relieved Daphne greatly. Then he eventually introduces himself as Riccardo Benedetto, the person who has been looking after her for the last few days. However, they have a problem. Her legs need additional treatment before healing. Daphne appears unaffected when she finds she can't feel her legs, and nonchalantly asks Ricarda if she'll never be able to use them again. If it was me, I would be in a panic. This drives Ricarda to grab her hands and tell her that he will make sure her legs recover now that he is her big brother, confusing Daphne, who takes his hand and claims she has no brother. Just then, Chloe enters the room, relieved to see Daphne in good health, and apologizes for putting her to a risky test. In her defense, she assumed Daphne would be terrified and flee, not returning with the flower. The Stacia flower can heal pain and is extremely rare due to its difficulty in cultivation. Thus, Chloe is amazed by Daphne's knack to defy the odds. Daphne is overjoyed when Chloe declares that she has passed the test. And when Chloe asks what she wants in exchange, Daphne firmly states that she wants to be her successor, which surprises the Benedetto family. Daphne clarifies that she only needs the title. She does not need to be the true heir. She needs the title to prevent the male lead from becoming Chloe's successor, ensuring that the story does not continue. However, Chloe still doesn't understand why Daphne has to go to such lengths when she could simply ask for financial help. So our girl explains firmly that she wants to change her fate. Everyone wants her gone because she's the villainess's daughter, but she refuses to go along with it and wants to live. She wishes to live happier than those who pray for her to suffer, even if it's a losing fight, which touches Chloe's heart. Daphne's desires push Chloe to open up since she too has suffered greatly, but she has no intention of allowing those who caused her pain to sleep peacefully. The documents Daphne provided her will serve as a strong proof against the director. The fact that Chloe and Daphne share a desire for revenge makes Chloe smile. She only intends to lend a helping hand at first, but after seeing Daphne's resolve, she decides to name her successor. She then cuddles Daphne, who is now a Benedetto, their family's new baby. Yay! One step closer to achieving her goals. It's a fresh day, and Lennox is carrying her around because they don't have a wheelchair yet, and crutches might be too difficult for her to use. However, his kindness is making Daphne so anxious, given that she's been betrayed by someone nice before. Who was that again? Yulene? No, urine, 'cause she stinks. According to Lennox, Daphne's hair turning white is likely a result of the agony and shock she endured. Much like Kaneki, if you guys know him. Lennox regrets not finding her sooner, but Daphne reassures him that while she lost her mother's hair color, she now has her new mother's hair color. New life, new hair. They're having a meal right now, and Daphne's eyes are beaming because it's probably her first proper meal. After eating, Chloe turns serious, stating that Daphne must follow some of her orders. Chloe is someone who provides a roof over her head and food in her stomach, so Daphne is aware that Chloe will expect something in return, and she is now preparing herself for whatever it may be. However, she is taken aback when Chloe simply states that she needs to keep her body healthy. Second, Chloe wants her to think of at least 5 things she wants to do, which confuses Daphne because she expected Chloe to ask her to do some work. I didn't imagine Chloe would be such a great mother to her. Chloe emphasizes that being healthy is vital and that their business would be based on her desires, which is why she wants to know what Daphne wants. She assures Daphne that she can spend as much time as she needs to think, and she gives her a small lesson about how merchants sometimes need to act ignorant before giving her her old bag. Daphne recalls putting the mystery seal in there as her final card on her sleeve and wonders if she could tell Chloe about it. However, after hearing Chloe's lesson earlier, she decides not to tell, which makes Chloe happy because it is what she expects of her daughter. Lennox then proceeds to cut Daphne's hair, and she tells Lennox that in the orphanage, she used to cut her own hair because others were making fun of her purple hair. She then nonchalantly mentions that there were worse things that happened, prompting our soft-hearted Lennox to cry. Daphne has no idea why Lennox is upset, why Ricarda is learning magic to find a cure for her legs, or why Chloe treats her like a real daughter. A part of her believes that these people are genuine, but it is so strange that she begins to cry and blurt out that she's a greedy child. So she asks Lennox to stop being nice to her, fearful that one day they will turn their backs on her. That is just so sad. Daphne ends up with a fever and is still in a trance when she awakens to Ricarda scolding Lennox for not soothing her when she cried. Then she watches Chloe talk about how she respects her for hiding her last card, the stamp. Daphne blushes as she hears their worry and shuts her eyes, hoping it's not a dream. Dear, it isn't, and they all love you. She is now completely awake and appears flustered when Chloe calls her baby. Cutie. Chloe starts wiping Daphne's face with a damp cloth, which feels so warm that she becomes anxious again. Daphne starts crying and asks her new mom why they are so good to her, but she soon covers her mouth because she fears Chloe will hate her for being a crybaby. To convince a traumatized child like her, actions speak louder than words, so her mom carries her to her new bedroom. Unlike the tower and storage area in the orphanage, her new room is very shining, with her own closet full of clothes, a dressing table, and Chloe even prepares her a doll. Once again, Daphne breaks down in tears as she tells Chloe how much she loves her room. She thought Chloe would just give her a plain old room to sleep in, but now she's feeling so loved that she's scared she'll begin to get used to it. Chloe lowers Daphne to her bed and begins to comfort her, saying that she doesn't want her to have to endure what she has. She holds Daphne's face, claiming her as her own daughter, and although Daphne initiated their relationship, she will continue it and be her mother. And with a motherly smile, she tells her to focus on her health and enjoy life right now so that she can reach her goals. Lennox and Ricarda, she goes on to say, have no intention of becoming her heirs, so Daphne need not be concerned about that. Never in her wildest dreams did Daphne expect to hear such kind words from anyone, but now that she's starting to feel the love pouring into her, she wants to stop turning it down. After embracing her mom for the first time, she asks Chloe sweetly if she can now call her mom. The next thing on Daphne's list is to pick up writing skills, which Chloe has already set her sights on. Suddenly, Ricarda and Lennox show up, embracing her, and this time, Daphne accepts it with glee. Aw, the boys have been raised so well, so Chloe will undoubtedly be an excellent mother to Daphne as well. Days have passed, and Daphne's new family has been taking turns accompanying her, even bickering over who gets to spend time with her. Plus, she's been smiling more frequently recently. Daphne chooses to work on her assignment one night while waiting for her mother to return home. It is almost past 10 and she should be sleeping now. But because she accidentally drank coffee earlier thanks to her brothers, who were scolded for it, she is much more full of life. Suddenly, the magical portal clock starts glowing, signaling that her mom has come back. Wait, no! Someone else has stepped through! The darkness makes Daphne's vision blurry, and she suddenly realizes that this could be the arrival of the male protagonist. However, she is confused as to why two people show up. Daphne is deep in thought as a violent figure rushes at her, seemingly intent on eliminating her. This man is surely not the ML. I mean, she is supposed to be sleeping right now, but a mishap involving coffee has put her in danger with an assassin? It's almost like the plot actually wants her dead. As the man threatens to kill her before going after Chloe, Daphne cries out and calls her mother, Lennox, and Ricarda. Good job! Her brothers are swift on her trail after hearing her scream. As soon as they step foot into the room, the man starts yelling at them to stay back, and Lennox and Ricarda have no idea that another assassin lurks in the shadows. They should have known better than to tamper with the wrong house. Now our bubbly Ricarda is fuming mad and uses his magic to bind the assassin as Lennox catches Daphne. Big Bro won't ever let her fall again. While they are distracted, the young assassin attempts to sneak up on Ricarda from behind, but you aren't swift enough. So the child is now also tied up and restrained. However, it appears that the boy is stronger than they thought, as he breaks the restraints with only his strength, startling both Ricarda and Lennox. The kid rushes at them, but they're confused because he just passed over them and is now heading for the other assassin. He pulls out his dagger and promptly beheads the fellow. Whoa! A child who murders without hesitation is a bit scary for a main lead. The kid then turns around and prepares to attack the siblings when Mom finally arrives. Where have you been, Mother? With a flick of her fingers, a smoke like magic binds the kid assassin in chains. Mom is surely powerful. Daphne then glances at the child, and his purple eyes immediately alert Daphne to the fact that he is the male protagonist from the novel's second half. His eyes are beautiful, but they appear so lifeless. Lennox then expresses his desire to kill the child due to his deadly nature, and Ricarda agrees. But then their mother says that they should think more carefully, which convinces Daphne that her mom will not kill the male lead, given that, in the original novel, this child is her successor. Well, my dear, things have changed, and you've completely misunderstood your mom. In reality, she is plotting ways to punish the child who assaulted their precious baby. Daphne now acknowledges that she has already altered the plot since taking over the male lead's role. She assumes that if the lead character dies now, the whole novel will end, which is ideal for her survival, but she soon becomes aware that with those thoughts in her head, she is no different from the individuals who have mistreated her. As the one who is supposed to pass away, she is now being replaced by the male lead, which is something that her guilt is unable to overlook. After considering what to do, she finally speaks up, stating that they should not kill someone, especially a child. This may have been her chance to finish the story, but our girl still has a heart despite everything she's been through. Well, I get it. Her revenge is most likely directed at her father. Her mother then carries her, appearing regretful while her brothers do the same, and they all agree with Daphne's decision. She then looks at the male lead again and notices that something is seriously wrong with his eyes, so Ricardo checks on him with his magic, which is a bit painful. But as the agony wears off, the boy's expression brightens up, and then he passes out. Then Ricardo breaks the news to everyone that the lad is actually a victim of hallucinations and hypnosis. Woo! Thank goodness the ML is not a complete lunatic. Ricardo feels sad for the boy who is too young to be an assassin, while Chloe is so mad and demands punishment for everyone who exploits defenseless children. Mother of the Year. They can't keep him like that, so Mom asks Lennox to temporarily put him in the forest's small cage for wild animals as a precaution since he's still an assassin. Ricardo offers to cast a captive spell on him, and Lennox decides to use his confession potion to interrogate him. Daphne is overjoyed to see her new family, the ones she created and who adore her, working so well together. The novel didn't mention that would happen to the Benedetto family once the male lead decided to leave, so Daphne can now only hope that everyone she cares about will be happy after she changes the story's plot. Since she has already chosen the path of not killing the male lead, she intends to grow closer to the boy, believing that a bit of friendliness might help change the story. And that plan will undoubtedly end up with falling in love. Daphne is running in her dreams and is shocked that she can move her legs. She wonders why she's running and believes that someone is chasing her, so she turns to look behind her and sees nothing but darkness. Just in time, the butler arrives to wake her up, apologizes profusely for startling her, and introduces himself as Winston Cheshire, the butler of the Benedetto estate. She informs the butler that she wants to see the boy again in the forest cage, but as Winston pushes the wheelchair for her, she wonders where he obtained it, only to discover that they had it ready in case she needed it. I knew it! Daphne can't believe her family tricked her, but the butler chuckles and says they were probably only trying to keep her safe. They really just want to get close to you, that's all. Daphne finds the forest vast, and they come to a halt in front of the cage, but she cannot see the boy, so Winston leans in to see him in the corner, and to add proof that he's really inside, his tummy begins to growl. Winston is positive that the kid is really starving, but given that he did not touch the food they provided, Winston believes that the boy is likely trained to follow orders. The butler adds that the kid must have been brainwashed to only act according to orders, which reminds Daphne of the orphanage where there is plenty of food in the kitchen, but she is beaten, so she has to get used to starving, and for some reason, she wants to make sure he eats. She asks Winston to take her closer to the boy because she wants to feed him the food, but Winston refuses, claiming that it's too risky. So Daphne uses her cuteness to persuade him that she is certain that the poor boy is extremely hungry, but not eating because he's afraid of adults, and perhaps he will eat if she feeds him. Winston gives up and really can't stop her, so he merely begs her to stay outside the cage and orders her not to put her hand inside. As she gets closer to the boy, she greets him, but this makes him angrier. Well, that is better than no emotion at all. Believing that he is on guard, Daphne considers a decent method to approach him and remembers that she must approach him slowly and gently. She is confident that it'll work because her mother used the power of kindness to make her open up. She holds a sandwich plate and asks him why he didn't eat, convincing him that if he's hungry, he can't move or run away, causing the male lead to flinch and his eyes to turn to the dish she's holding. He is cute. She places the plate inside the cage to make it easier for him to eat, hoping he will enjoy his meal, and offers him a bottle of water as well. As soon as Daphne says he can eat, the boy begins to consume his food, making her so pleased. Before they leave the forest, she lets Winston give the boy her blanket because it's cold in the forest. And while the male lead sits there in silence, she promises to bring him something yummier the next time. Daphne asks him not to do anything silly until she returns, and smilingly adds that she hopes to know his name the next time they meet, and she will tell her name as well, waving her hand as they go. Our sweet little angel. During dinner, Chloe informs Daphne that she is not permitted to visit that boy again, but she protests that it is cold and lonely outside the forest. Nonetheless, Chloe is adamant that he is dangerous because he grew up as an assassin. Daphne believes she needs to get closer to the kid in order for them to be friends, but she must persuade her mother, and then all of a sudden, she remembers that she can use her second wish to allow her to spend time with that boy. Daphne uses her pleading eyes and swears that she will not enter or open the cage. She also guarantees that she will never visit the kid without a companion, and that if the kid continues to threaten her, she will give up. After seeing Daphne's concern for the child, Chloe can do nothing but sigh and agree, on the condition that she keeps her promise, making Daphne so happy. If it means seeing Daphne's huge smile, then any mom would agree. Today, Ricardo pushes her wheelchair into the forest, and as soon as the boy sees Daphne, he lights up like a puppy, eagerly awaiting his owner's return. Daphne notices that the boy does not eat his food again, so she asks Ricardo to assist her in getting down on the ground, which Ricardo initially refuses, since the ground is cold. Our girl, though, is well aware that her older brother came along with a bag packed with all her needs. He then lays a blanket and pillow for her to sit on, and the most important item in his bag is his homemade chocolate, which Daphne actually doesn't like because it's too sweet. But how can she refuse when Ricardo is so happy? Family is really more than blood. Now that they're closer, she asks him if he's hungry as he drools, staring at her basket. She then informs him that she bought warm soup, bread, and some fruit. After she explains that she couldn't just hand him the food, he is quick to suggest that she beat him in return. Ricardo then informs her that the child did not eat yesterday because he could smell the confession potion they used. Daphne's heart hurts after the boy shares that the people who took him used to beat him up. They both experience mistreatment and cruelty. She tells him that she does not have the strength to hurt him, but she smiles and introduces herself, and he reluctantly reveals his name as well, Ragnar. As he happily devours Daphne's preparations, Ragnar can't help but make adorable comments about how good they are. But when he sees Ricardo, who is standing behind our girl and has those striking red eyes, his demeanor completely changes. Ragnar starts to seem frightened since Ricardo's towering stature reminds him of the adults who used to hit him, which surprises our ever-loving big bro. The fact that her brother appears menacing makes Daphne wonder if his size is to blame, so she invites Ricardo to sit with her. Almost immediately after that, she observes Ragnar calming down, and she is now certain that Ragnar too was assaulted by grown-ups, which is something that is similar to what she experienced. Like her, Daphne wants Ragnar to understand that there are still nice and warm things in this world. So she begins to offer him hot chocolate, which she describes as her favorite drink. Ragnar gives it a shot, and after he has finished the entire mug, his eyes light up with excitement as he appears to have discovered his favorite drink. OMG, his cuteness is really something! Daphne grins as she sees him enjoying the drink, but Ragnar looks away as she keeps staring at him, making him worried that Daphne will be disgusted by his sharp purple eyes. It is adorable, though, that he looks like a cat yet behaves like a dog. Before responding to Ragnar's concern, Daphne shows him her bandaged legs, explaining that she is unable to walk. Then she returns the question, asking if Ragnar finds her unsightly. Well, our guy here sees flowers when he looks at Daphne, so he clearly doesn't see her disgusting at all. And so Daphne also responds that she actually likes his purple eyes. Then she goes on to say that she plans to visit him every day just to look into his eyes, which makes him happy and makes him flush. To be each other's childhood best friend is the best. After a week of trying, Ragnar still won't eat the meal that Lennox adds the truth serum to due to the foul smell, so Daphne devises a better approach. She comes up with a fantastic idea, using a game where they can ask each other questions, and our puppy Ragnar's innocence helps them figure out where the assassins are. When they finally did search the area, it was too late. Nobody was there. I really want to know who these people are! Today, Daphne finds that Ragnar has a brother who promised to pick him up eventually, but given that he is now alone and was raised by assassins, she believes his brother abandoned him. Poor Ragnar. At exactly that moment, Ricardo shows up holding something that seems suspicious. Ricardo brought with him some magical potions and is currently making something while explaining everything to everyone. Daphne is trying to make sense of what Ricardo is up to when he gives her the stick and tells her to follow the trail he made. Daphne enjoys it as it reminds her of the game connecting the dots, and Lennox is very patient as he carries her. Ricardo then asks her to place the stick in the center of the magic circle she has just traced, after which he touches it and begins to glow. This is just making Daphne more confused, so Ricardo explains that he has been observing Ragnar for the past week and thinks he is not under any spell anymore. After consulting with the family, they decided to link the estate and the forest so Daphne could access the magic portal. Ricardo continues by saying that getting to the forest is becoming more difficult now that it's getting colder, but they can't stop Daphne from seeing Ragnar, so a magic portal is thought of. They are all taken aback when Ragnar slaps his own face to ensure that he's not dreaming and joyfully informs Daphne that he can now spend more time with her, while Lennox offers to apply medications to Ragnar's face, warning him that he frightens everyone, but he merely smiles. Daphne can't help but question if the male lead in the novel is supposed to be a dummy. Who doesn't like a male lead that has golden retriever energy, though? Upon reaching the portal unnoticed that evening, Daphne feels happy. She closes her eyes, thinking Ragnar will be shocked that she visited him at such a late hour. She proceeds to the center of the diagram and finds herself instantly transported to the forest. Upon opening her eyes, she finds herself standing in front of the cage, but it's completely dark, and she completely disregards the possibility that Ragnar is already asleep. In a blink of an eye, her excitement transforms into dread. The nighttime brings back terrible memories of the people who despise her, and she starts to panic. Daphne's hands won't stop shaking, and her mind is screaming for help until she notices something sparkling and glowing in the dark, and discovers that it's Ragnar's eyes that light and dazzle so wonderfully. It makes her calm down, and she begins complimenting how his eyes are more lovely than the moon that lights up the sky. Ragnar then asks her if she sneaks out because she misses him. He now knows how to crack a joke while Daphne offers him a hot cocoa, which he gratefully accepts and begins to sip in front of her, making her smile. Daphne plans to come every day to play with him and every night to smuggle some snacks for him, figuring that as they become closer, he will trust her more and it will be difficult for him to dislike her. Daphne is relieved since she believes that everything is going according to plan. Ragnar is suddenly curious about why she dislikes sweets. She just tells him that it's because they're overly sweet and she's afraid of melting along with them. She thinks it's true that if something is excessively sweet, you tend to lose sight of reality. She fears that, like marshmallows, her resolve to carry out her revenge will also melt away. Ragnar laughs, thinking she's like a baby who fears melting away. This makes her blush because she cannot believe she's being treated like a baby by a little kid. So she turns around and tells him she's leaving, but he squeezes her hand and reassures her that he will hold her so that she will not melt away, and promises to be by her side from now on, giving her a big smile. But she is concerned about whether Ragnar will stand by her side once he discovers that she is the villain's daughter. Lennox touches the new leaves sprouting on the ground and tells everyone that spring is on its way, reminding Daphne that it has been 2 months since she arrived at the Benedetto estate, and a month since she met Ragnar, which reminds her that Ragnar appears to have a secret these days because she finds him doing something in his cage, but he hides it as soon as he sees her, leaving her wondering what it is. Ricarda suggests that they travel somewhere with Daphne when the spring arrives, causing Ragnar to react fast and declare his wish to go with Daphne. He squeezes the iron bars hard enough for him to react by gripping his left wrist, prompting Daphne to check on him, only to discover a fresh wound. Lennox promptly treats his wound and uncovers why they have a missing plate. Ragnar must have shattered it and attempted to clean it up, but suffered an injury instead. They soon learn that Ragnar chose not to tell them because he believed he would get into trouble, and he chuckles as he shows Daphne that the scar looks cool, which Daphne disagrees with. Our poor boy doesn't understand why Daphne is upset when everyone has informed him that scars are medals of honor, leaving the Benedetto siblings to look at him with disbelief. Daphne shivers at the thought that Ragnar's abusers not only used violence, but also convinced him that getting hurt was acceptable. She then holds Ragnar's hand, emphasizing that no scars are badges and that being harmed should never be normal. Ragnar is so worried seeing Daphne sad, but then Lennox cuts into their conversation, carrying his baby sister as it's now time to go home. But before they go, Daphne makes Ragnar promise never to hide his injury since she does not want to see him hurt, which makes him realize Daphne is concerned about him. Seeing Daphne's worrying makes him smile widely, and he vows to never hide his pain. Even after that, Daphne can't help but be upset, and she desperately wants to know where they mistreated Ragnar and raised him to be an assassin. She plans to uncover more about his life and pay him a secret visit at night. That night, as they are conversing, Daphne discovers that the people who trained Ragnar promised to take him to his brother if he became an assassin, but he refused. So they forced Ragnar and cast a spell on him to turn him into a killing machine. With a charming smile, he concludes his story by expressing his gratitude to her for saving him. Now that he gets to ask, Ragnar inquires as to Daphne's fear of the dark. Daphne reveals that her hatred for the dark stems from the memory of her cold and dark father. Ragnar becomes interested as to why her father abandoned her, but Daphne is unable to tell him that it is because she's the villainess's daughter, for fear that he will detest her as much as everyone else. But then she has the realization that it would be easier to accept if Ragnar hates her now, So she confesses while crying that she is the villainess's daughter who deserves to die. I just hope she stops calling her mom wicked, because she isn't, but rather the legal wife. Daphne is unable to see Ragnar's reaction due to the darkness, and she begins to overthink the possibility that he's gazing at her with distaste, as everyone else does. But she is surprised when Ragnar appears to be unconcerned that she is the wicked Duchess's daughter. He holds her hands and believes she does not deserve punishment since she is too kind for it, which causes Daphne to break down in tears again. Our not-so-big boy assures delicate Daphne that he will ensure that no one mocks her again, and that he's going to protect her from now on. Hearing those words warm Daphne up because everyone dislikes her in this life, and she only has herself to rely on. But now that Ragnar is holding her hand, she recognizes she has someone on her side. Ragnar then brightens the mood by asking if she considers him a friend, which causes Daphne to pause and reflect, since she has long since forgotten the feeling of having a close friend. After remembering that friends in her past life were people who brought joy and laughter into her life, she enthusiastically declares that Ragnar is her friend. But her chest tightens, and she finds herself gasping for air just as she's about to finish speaking. When she falls, Ragnar, who is confined to the cage, can only scream. Meanwhile, back at the Benedetto estate, everyone hurries upstairs when they hear a commotion and discover Ragnar crying over the portal, his clothes torn up and carrying an unconscious Daphne. So, all along, Ragnar could have simply escaped? They all run to examine Daphne's condition, and Chloe notices she has a very high fever. She carries her daughter and orders Lennox to follow her, while Ricarda takes care of Ragnar. After reassuring Ragnar that he will not be sent back to the cage, Ricarda carries him while tending to his wounds. After Ricarda uses his magic to cure Ragnar, Big Bro already knows Daphne has been sneaking out every night to see him. And what's new to him is that Ragnar has always had the ability to escape the cage. However, seeing how worried this dangerous kid is for his baby sister, he offers his hand and smiles, informing him that they now can visit Daphne. Ricarda's kindness astounds Ragnar, and while he used to be afraid of him, he no longer is after realizing that this grown-up isn't holding him responsible for what happened to Daphne. He then reaches out and takes Big Bro's hand. As he absorbs the experience of having an older brother, our cute little boy gazes up at Ricarda with pure admiration. He looks so tiny and adorable! After waking up, Daphne feels a sharp ache in her throat, but it passes fast when she notices Ragnar sitting by her side, his eyes filled with tears. He then explains what happened, and Daphne calls him a dummy after realizing that he could have fled but remained in that cage, waiting for her every day. Ragnar immediately blames himself for getting Daphne sick, but our girl merely grins and repeats what she was going to say that night. Ragnar is her friend. This makes our cute boy here extremely happy, and he instantly hugs his friend. Chloe then rushes to her side, relieved that she's finally awake after being asleep for a week. Now that Daphne is awake, Chloe takes a serious tone and finally asks Ragnar why he continues to stay in the cage. He firmly claims that Daphne may be scared of him because he first attempted to hurt her. And although knowing that he cannot stay at the Benedetto estate, he chooses to get out of the cage because Daphne's health is more important. Chloe smiles and praises Ragnar for saving her daughter, then tells him that she's been searching for his brother and discovered that he's a nasty person. With that said, Mama Chloe invites him to keep staying at their home if he wishes. Just about time, Mom. Ragnar instantly expresses his eagerness to stay and even asks Chloe to reassure him that this is not a prank, which Mama confirms. Daphne envelops her friend Ragnar in a bear hug, and our bashful boy here returns the embrace. These little ones are just too cute. After that, they all sat down to dinner with Ragnar, who is now part of the family, and Daphne couldn't be happier. That night, Mama Chloe enters Daphne's bedroom and keeps an eye on her sleeping daughter. She keeps her worry about Daphne's health under wraps, but as she glances at her legs, she starts to grieve. Daphne is scared of the outside world, so they've tried everything at home to heal her legs with medicine and magic, but nothing works, leaving Chloe with little choice but to entrust her treatment to a guy she knows. Ragnar has settled in nicely at his new home after a while. Reading is something that he and Daphne are learning with the help of Chloe. Occasionally, he assists Lennox with his tasks, and in other instances, he is learning how to cook with Ricarda. Ah, a life these kids deserve. Today, he surprises Daphne with a handcrafted purple scarf and gloves. She then discovers that this is the thing he had been hiding and doing while still in the cage. It looks shabby, and the length is off, and it's not even winter anymore, but our girl finds it charming, so she wears it to reassure our sweet boy here, claiming that she can still wear them in the morning and night when it's chilly. She also mentions that she loves the color purple he used, which makes Ragnar very content. Just then, a white-haired guy enters the room and kneels before Daphne, crying and claiming to be her father. Well, Daddy, whoever you are already a greater father than her actual dad. His statements confuse the kids, but this man cannot stop crying at the notion of meeting his own daughter for the first time. Ragnar remains on guard, but Daphne notes that his gold eyes are identical to hers. Only nobles in the kingdom have golden eyes, so this crybaby in front of her must be a nobleman as well, until Mama Chloe appears, fuming and screaming this man's name, Axelius. The dashing man gets to his feet, continues to cry, but this time he surprises the kids by calling Chloe honey and complimenting her beauty. Oh my, Mama has a lover? Then Chloe approaches him, and rather than being all sweet and romantic, she hits him multiple times for his unannounced visit, which shocks the kids. Axelius keeps sobbing and then says how heartbroken he is that Chloe is taking care of their child secretly, which makes Mama blush. As she screams in embarrassment, she tells him that Daphne is not his daughter, which breaks his softy heart. Lennox then chooses to take Daphne outside so that the two adults may discuss the misunderstanding in privacy. Axelius calms down and feels defeated when Chloe refuses to tell him who Daphne's father is. Well, he actually has every right to be suspicious because he and Chloe spent the night together 5 or 6 years ago before he left for war. I really hope they rekindle their love story since they are great together. They then discuss Daphne's leg, and Chloe says that they've done everything but can't cure it. Axel is even more taken aback that Lennox and Ricarda, the best magicians and alchemists in their kingdom, were unable to treat Daphne. Whoa, big bros are powerful! Axel has come to understand that Chloe called him because their only option is to get Daphne treated at the temple. Mama Chloe begins to cry because if the temple cannot heal her daughter, Daphne will be compelled to endure life without legs, so she begs Axel, who quickly holds her hand and assures her that he will do everything he can to save Daphne. He then gives her a comforting smile as he mentally notes that he will do everything for the one he loves, even if it means betraying his family name. I see. He is a big shot. Is that why he and Mama Chloe never got together? Anyway, after a week, Daphne is now preparing to go to the temple today. She expects Lennox to accompany her, but he simply smiles and tells her that a paladin is going to take her to the temple. Then, Axelius Chainard bursts into the room, startling Ragnar and Daphne with his stunning appearance in his paladin uniform. Although Daphne wants Ragnar to accompany her, she recognizes that it's best for him to stay because he is uncomfortable in large groups. Like Ragnar, she fears that someone will identify her as the evil Duchess's daughter if she ventures out. However, her determination to walk again is driving her, as she does not want her family or Ragnar to endure any harm as a result of her. Outside the carriage, Chloe is waiting to give her a lovely hat that will serve as a disguise. She thanks her mom with a bright smile, confident that the hat will keep her out of trouble. Chloe informs her that the temple is closed to guests today, so she doesn't have to be concerned. And her family, including Ragnar, wave to her, wishing her a safe journey as she smiles and thanks them all for giving her courage. Everyone greets Sir Chainard as they approach the temple, prompting Daphne to believe he is a paladin after all. 2 soldiers salute the paladin, informing him that she is waiting for him inside. And as they enter the room, Chainard is greeted by a woman dressed entirely in white, whom Daphne learns to be a saintess. Saint Johanna leans towards Daphne as Chainard explains that Daphne's legs were injured in an accident and cannot be repaired through magic or alchemy. Saint Johanna then offers to start the therapy right away, and her hands begin to glow and shine as Daphne watches God's power manifest on her. She feels her legs getting warm, and Saint Johanna tells her to move them. Our girl tries hard to move her legs while Chainard watches her, and Saint Johanna continues to pray for her. Voila! They are all thrilled that she moves her foot slightly, and Saint Johanna explains that it takes a lot of power, but her legs can be restored, making Daphne smile as she realizes that the god's mercy is finally upon her. Meanwhile, beyond the entrance, the crown prince of the Clement's kingdom is enraged because the guards are preventing him from entering the temple to see Grand Duke Axelius. Oh, Dad isn't just a paladin, but also a Grand Duke! Inside the temple, the saintess wants a private conversation with Axel for 1 minute, leaving Daphne alone in the sanctuary. After checking all around, she sees that no one is there. She takes off her hat since it's getting stuffy. Suddenly, the door to the temple flings open and the young prince sprints in. In a rage, the prince approaches Daphne, notices her golden eyes, and demands to know if she's the Grand Duke's daughter. At the same time, Dad is anxiously awaiting the saintess's words and finds out that Daphne will recover in due time. The Saintess goes on to explain that Daphne is unlike any other kids, so treating her would require a lot of power. However, Daphne's fragile and little body could not withstand much power all at once, so they agreed to have her treated at intervals, which would take more than a year to properly recover. The Saintess notices how frightened Axel appears, and given that Daphne has his eyes and Chloe's white hair, as well as the fact that everyone in the capital knows how much Axel loves Chloe, she is convinced that Daphne is their daughter. With that in mind, Saintess Johanna urges Axel to assure Chloe that she will accept responsibility for Daphne's treatment. He didn't mention Chloe, so he realizes the Saintess must have misunderstood them as parents. But before he can explain, they hear Daphne screaming outside. Axel rushes outside and finds the young prince yelling at Daphne for having gold eyes when he doesn't. A spoiled prince, I see. Daphne is in a state of panic and has broken down in tears since the prince's constant pointing at her makes her remember the children in the orphanage who bully her. Mr. Crying Man rushes to defend her from the prince, and when Daphne hears him address the child as Your Highness, she realizes he's the crown prince and the female lead's fiancé. Looks like we found the second male lead. So guys, what do you think of this story so far? Please subscribe and turn on notifications for updates on this and all our other stories, so you can be the first to find out when they're out. Thank you so much for your support. See you in the next one!